I'm like, well, you kind of like fake it until you make it. Like you kind of just keep like thinking, right, yeah, no, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. And then one day you wake up and it is fine.
In 2013, Kat Bonner lost her mom in a tragic car accident. She figured out how to manage her grief and is helping other women do the same. On this podcast, you'll hear from other women who have lost their moms and discover the exact coping strategies you need to get through the day and be in the best place you've ever been. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today. More information can be found at katbonner.com/podcast. And if you'd like to join a group of like-minded women, head to Facebook and search for the Life After Losing Mom community. Lastly, if you're looking for help managing your grief, book a complimentary connection call at katbonner.com.
So I guess where I'll start is that it all happened, well, it'll be 8 years in October. So coming up quite a while now, to be fair. I feel like a lot of the people I meet through like the kind of community on Instagram, it's all very new and raw, and it's hard to kind of find the middle ground. But yeah, so it's happened nearly 8 years ago, and she died from a brain tumor. It was the second time around. So I think her kind of battle with cancer lasted maybe like 4 years in total. So quite a long time. With, like I said, she got the all clear, and then I think it was on like her third scan after that, we'd seen that it came back. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of it.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, thank you.
Straight in with it.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing.
No worries.
How would you say, so let me see. So it was a brain tumor, and you said her battle with cancer was about 4 years. Was she in remission, or was it just like a straight 4-year battle?
No, so yeah, exactly that. So what actually happened was she was diagnosed with epilepsy to begin with. So she was treated with for epilepsy for maybe the first year and a bit. And then we were actually just going on the family holiday in the UK. So luckily it wasn't abroad, but we were going on holiday, and we got to the destination, which is about, I'd say, 3 hours from home. And she received a phone call from the hospital basically saying human error, misplaced her scan results. And yeah, she needed to come in for an urgent operation on her brain, basically. Yeah, so that was the first time. So it was removed the first time, and then just had loads of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, went into remission. And then, yeah, it was on the third checkup after. So I think she had a scan every 3 months, I want to say. And then, yeah, on the third one, they found that it had returned, but the positioning of it in the brain meant that they couldn't operate. So she had kind of the rest of her dose of radiotherapy. And she couldn't have any more. So then she tried chemo, and in the March of 2011, yeah, she was told that there's nothing more they could do, and she could kind of decide whether to keep having chemo and see what happens. But the chances are it wasn't going to help. And she decided to stop taking medicine.
Interesting. I love how you mentioned that she was diagnosed with epilepsy first, because I feel like those cases are just becoming more and more common, I guess, as medicine progresses almost, which is kind of funny to me, because I'm like, yeah, okay, it's human error. But in my mind, if medicine is, only getting better, why are these, misdiagnoses happening?
I know.
So I'm curious, what were your feelings about that?
I must have been, so I was 17 when she died. So I must have been like 13, 14 at the time. So I don't really remember feeling anything, and it was all kept quite hush-hush at the start. So when she received the call and we were on holiday, the rest of our family just stayed on holiday with us, and she went home. It's really bizarre, and it's all kind of a bit blurry. But I don't remember at the time worrying. I just thought, oh, mum's got to go, sort of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like, 17 is an age where you can process the loss. But 13, how old you were, when your mom got sick, I feel like that's a very difficult age to process, the diagnoses. So can you walk me through what you thought, I guess, when, your mom was diagnosed, like what was going on in your 13-year-old brain?
Yeah, I guess 13-year-old me just just like most people think their parents are invincible. You don't really realize the extent of it all. Yeah. Even like 4 years in, I'd say even the month before she died and she's in bed most of the time, it never ever crossed my mind that she's going to die, because she got better the first time, so she's going to just get better again, and it's just shit at the moment, but it's going to get better and it'll be fine. I never remember sitting and thinking she's going to die. Never.
Yeah, I
just totally oblivious to it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Even if we know our mom is sick or whatever, what person, I guess, in their right mind thinks that their parents are going to die? I mean, that's why I always say it doesn't matter, if the loss is expected or unexpected, because it doesn't matter if you know the truth. It's just, miracles happen, and then tragedy strikes and that sort of thing. Literally anything can happen. So yeah, exactly. That's interesting. So where did you notice your real struggle, I guess, dealing with, the loss? Was it immediate, or, did it take a little while? Maybe as we're out of high school?
Yeah, so I'd say I probably struggled from the start, but I wasn't aware of it. I say that my grieving started 4 years later. So from basically the day that she died, probably before, but the day that she died, I was very still okay with it. I don't know, it's really weird to say, because I think if my dad died I'd be beside myself, but I've been through it with my mum and that wasn't the case. But yeah, I was just very much I think it was the next day pretty much. No, it wasn't the next day, it was a week later, sorry, because it was half term, so we had a break from school. And when I was going back to school, I had work experience. I had 2 weeks work experience, and I remember going in on the Monday, meeting all of the staff and everything, meeting the lady who was my manager at the time for the 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, just by the way, my mum died last week, so if I'm a bit upset, or if I need to go home, or if I'm just feeling a bit weird, that's why. And she was like, oh, okay, are you sure you want to be here? And I was like, yeah, no, it's great, it's fine, loving it. And she's like, okay. So everyone didn't know how to take me, because I was just so yeah, my mum died, shit happens, it's just one of those things. For literally 4 years I was like that, and then it hit like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, that's so funny. I was about to say, so if I do the math right, you're 25 now?
25. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
25.
So when I was about 21-ish is when it all started to deal with it. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, yeah, that wasn't too long ago. See, it's interesting that you say that, because I was 18 when I lost my mom. So those 4 years, I really, didn't grieve, I guess, as being in college. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can attest to a distraction and that sort of thing. When my focus was just surviving and not flunking out of school. But sometimes, those distractions, I mean, they're helping you, but you don't realize how much you're not grieving until you start to grieve and you're like, oh God, so when did, I guess, you realize, oh yeah, you were about 21 or so when your grief hit. How, were you living close to your dad, or, did you kind of figure things out on your own? How did that process go, trying to figure everything out?
Yeah. So, when, what was it, in the second year I would have been of, we call it college. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, the same thing.
Same thing. So I I was living away at the time, and only came home every couple of weekends. So I was used to being away from the family home. So I had one more year of that, just living away. So I was away from it. I wasn't having to face it every day. And then when I came home, I was living with my little sister and my stepdad, I feel bad because I have love for him, but we don't see eye to eye. We're not the closest, and I say hi if I see him. It's one of those, I don't really check in on him. So when I came home from college and I was with him, I then moved in with my dad and my stepmom. And my dad is my best friend. Like, we're so close. And yeah, so I was with him for 3 months, and just because my mum and dad split up when I was maybe like one and a half, so young. So my whole life, my mum and my dad have been separate, and I've never lived with my dad. So things were tricky living with him and adjusting as an adult as well. And having never lived with him, dynamics were just strange. Not necessarily between me and my dad, but just in the whole kind of atmosphere of the house. And so I went to live with my auntie. So it was all very like focusing on like the next thing. And I don't know. I think as well, one main thing is my family always thought that I was going to lose it. So I wasn't a bad teenager, but I was a bit of a, I don't know, rebel's a cringe word to say, but I wasn't always by the book. And I think my auntie in particular thought I was probably going to go down some wrong roads. And I think that in the back of my mind meant that I focused even more on not doing that. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And so I think by being upset or negatively grieving or negatively, I don't know, I didn't want people to think, oh, here she goes. So I just kind of kept going. And you can only do it for so long.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's interesting that you point out that, your parents were separated your whole life or, most of your life, and then you live with your mom. And I'm like, okay, like she 100% was not just your mom. Obviously, I'm just, assuming based on what you're telling me, but I feel like that's how I was too. So it makes things like, it's like, okay, a double slap in the face. But you mentioned, like you not really being close with your stepdad. Were they married when your mom passed by chance?
So they were together for a long time. When did they get together? Maybe when I was like 2 or 3.
Wow.
Yeah, they never married. They weren't the typical like couple that's in love. I never felt love vibes from them. But just to paint a picture, and I can say this because I know he's never going to listen to this. A month or so before she died, we all knew that it was going to go that way. He decided he wanted to marry her, and it was very money related, should I say. So it brought up tricky situations, especially within like obviously my mum's family and him, me and my sisters and him, me and my little sister, because my little sister is my stepdad's child.
Okay.
So it's been hard to kind of navigate that as well, taking into consideration obviously her feelings. So yeah, they were an odd couple. I don't know. I felt like they had love for each other, but when you look at a couple and you think, oh, they're so in love, it never was that, I don't think, personally.
Sorry, as soon as I asked about like being married and then you started talking, I was like, okay, I probably should have rephrased that, and I should have asked like, when were they together?
No, I'm cool with that. It's fine. It's because it's one of those topics that like it's there, but it's tricky to talk about because, like I said, with my little sister and stuff, it's one of those topical conversations that has been just brushed onto the carpet. It's the assumption that's there, and it's tricky to actually address it. So it's all the politics of like, death brings up so much family politics, like it's ridiculous.
Oh my God, you are so right. It's just mind-blowing. I'm like, okay, this literally goes to show, I used to think the old adage, oh, blood makes family. And then after my mom died, I'm like, this is so not true.
Definitely not.
Just because of how people have acted, I'm like,
Yeah. And it's not even just like money, but it's just like those that say they're there for you aren't. And it just goes down to the simplest of things. And I think when, because like it's maybe similar for you, where I was living with my mum and then she passed away, I didn't only lose my mum, I lost my family home. I lost like
Mhm.
everything else that kind of comes with that dynamic, I guess.
You literally lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's grow up what you know. Like, that's growing up, that's what you knew.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel, I mean, I guess, it's different because, yeah, your dad's your dad. Your stepdad's not your dad, but your stepdad was with your mom. So do you ever feel like any sense of guilt, not being close to your stepdad and being close to your dad or anything like that?
Um, I guess, and I am the bridge that holds everybody together, to be honest. So I have my thoughts and my views on my stepdad, but I'll never let that affect anything um, in terms of, like I said, like my relationship with my little sister. Um, I have love for him because he's been that father, not father figure. My dad's been amazing, but he's been like the man of the house, say. Um, my whole childhood. So I looked up to him. He was a great stepdad, but it was just the last years of my mum's life and then living there with him that I just saw sides to him that just I was like, I don't know if I agree with this. So yeah, I'd say I have love for him for the role that he played before. But right now, like I said, I'd pass him in the street, I'd say hi, but I wouldn't necessarily stop.
Oh my God, that's such a good answer. And you have nothing to feel bad about even if you do, just based on what you're telling me, because I'm not close to certain people in my family. I'm not going to say who, because who knows, they might be listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
But people are like, oh, like you're not close to them. Like, why not? I'm like, first of all, it's none of your business. Second of all, like we were never close to begin with. And then, like you said, death changes people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Do you by chance, were you like your mom's caretaker, kind of, sort of?
Well, I say we all were. I wasn't solely, no. And because I was living away a lot, I didn't see a lot. But she was cared for at home right up until she died. So she died at home as well. And we were just lucky enough, and I'm really grateful for it, that we had the space in the house to kind of facilitate like a hospital room, basically. So like downstairs we have not downstairs, we have a local hospice. We have a local hospice who downstairs put like a hospital bed, and we had carers that would come during the night and stuff. And then if mum ever needed some respite, she'd go over to the hospice, and it's this beautiful kind of like manor house with beautiful gardens where people would like take her around in a wheelchair if she needed to or wanted to. So yeah, I wouldn't take the credit. No, I wouldn't say that I was. We were very much a part, or I was a part of it. But I've got to give that credit to kind of my sisters probably, and the carers that came during the day and night.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I hear a lot about like this caregiver PTSD stuff, which my mom wasn't sick and I wasn't her caregiver, so I don't know about that. But did you experience like any, negative feelings toward that, after your mom passed?
Yeah, it was a really big mixture of, and I've learned to accept that this is how I felt. It's a really big mixture of relief and thank that it was over. And then the other half was like, well, what now? Like we're always kind of like waiting on different like milestones or different results or this or that. We were always waiting on different things. And then it almost got to a point then when we were waiting for her to die, which is horrible. But it was, 50-50 of, well, thank God for that. And then, well, what do I do? What do we do now? So I wouldn't say it was intense necessarily, but there was factors of, I guess kind of, what do you do now? What's the purpose now? Like what role do I play now?
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because, I mean, regardless, nobody wants to see their parent die. I mean, that's just fucking awful. But it's interesting that you mentioned like the relief and then you're like, like, okay, I'm kind of lost and confused because you got so used to something for, 4 years or however many years. And then it's not just like your mom not being there. It's a whole like change in what you're used to, regardless of like, your mom being sick or anything like that. I am curious though, is there anything that like you wish you would have done or said to your mom or anything like you regret? It's like just in the back of your mind, while she was still alive, like while she was sick and fighting?
Yeah, so this was like the main thing. So like 4 years in after losing her, when I kind of realized everything, the main thing that used to haunt me was because at 21, I've got a job, I'm earning money, I can look after myself. I'm no longer living like at home. I've moved away to a different city. So I'm a lot more independent. So what used to haunt me was like, wish I could have just taken her out for coffee, or I wish when she wanted to go for a walk, I would have gone with her, or I wish I could have taken her for dinner, or we could have gone to the cinema, and all of these things. And it wasn't until actually that I started getting counselling therapy that she brought it to my attention, my counsellor brought it to my attention that like all of these things that I'm feeling guilty for and I'm regretting weren't things that were possible at the time. So like from the age of 17 to 21, although it's only 4 years, but in terms of maturing and your life changing, that's a massive period of time. So yeah, everything that I was feeling was things that I could do at 21, but not necessarily I could have done at 17. And like things like, say, going for a walk when she wanted to or when she was able to. I was 17. I wanted to be out with my friends. Like I said to you before, I didn't think she was going to die. So why am I going to waste half an hour walking down to the bottom of the road and back up again? Whereas like now I see the importance of that. And it's just those things that I just think, oh, if only you knew, Laura, that would make her so happy. Or it's half an hour of your time, just go do that and then you can go see your friends after. But I was just selfish and a typical teenager. So yeah, I'd say that's like the main things. But I do feel guilty for them, but I kind of don't allow it to like swallow me up anymore, because it's just a different perspective. It's different. I'm grieving as a 21-year-old instead of 17.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I mean, there's always things that, after someone passes, you realize like you should have done differently or, things like that. But it's nice that you mention that, you were just being a teenager, I mean, it's obviously that is a sign that like you're healing and you've healed from that, because I mean, you didn't mean any harm by it. Like you were just being 17, whatever. But yeah, sometimes it just takes us a while to realize those things, because there is a difference in maturity, like in a 17-year-old versus a 21-year-old, regardless of you losing your mom at 17. That doesn't mean that you just grow up and figure things out right away. And I feel like a lot of people just assume that like, oh, like you lost your mom when you were young, like you must have grown up really fast. And I'm like, yes and no. Like once I grew up, but it was a matter of like growing up. It was a matter of getting there, because I was like, I was not mature for like a good 2 years. So can you attest to that, or am I just crazy?
No, I agree. I think I've always liked to think I was mature, but like when you look back, you just think you had no idea. So yeah, I don't think I grew up quick at all. If anything, you kind of pause in that moment and you're a bit like, oh God, like, what do I do? What happens now? So if anything, yeah, you're kind of on halt for a little while rather than kind of propelling into maturity. I don't know.
Oh God, yeah. I was like a baby. I had like I was like a pity parties left and right. But I mean, whatever. You had to do what you had to do to get through the day.
Exactly.
So that was my philosophy. How long would you say the struggle of like feeling guilty, lasted?
Mm, um, I think it morphs, it changes. I feel guilty even now, but for like different reasons. So I'd say the guilt of not being or not doing what I wish I could have done, probably maybe 2 years. But having that conversation with my therapist helped a lot. It did help change my perspective, but then obviously you've got to then take time to accept that and kind of take not control of that, but kind of ownership of that. So I'd say like 2 years, but I still feel guilty now. But yeah, like I said, just different reasons. Now it's more that days will go by and I haven't thought about her, maybe like subconsciously, but some days will go by and I won't think about her once. And that like breaks my heart to say that, because it's horrible to admit that, because you think, oh, am I forgetting about her, or I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to put into words, but I spoke to this lady on my Instagram page actually, and I was having this really honest conversation with her about it. And I love that because you just get so many different perspectives from people that have gone through similar things. And she was like, Laura, like, you can't really think like that. Like, yeah, okay, each day goes by, you might be kind of thinking about her less, but it's only because she's just becoming more of what you do. So like a day might go by that I haven't thought about her, but the way that I've carried myself and the things I've done and the words I've said are a testament to how she brought me up. It's like how she's affecting how I grow up and things like that. So it's not that I'm forgetting about her. It's just that she's present in a different way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And as soon as I asked that question, I was like, okay, once again, my verbiage is probably terrible. I should have probably asked like, hey, how many years would you say your guilt was consuming you? Because obviously there's going to be times, when you're feeling guilty, because that's just grief, and grief is never ending. But oh my God, you are my soul freaking sister. I'm in the exact same place. Like people, I feel awful. Like you were saying, there are days where I don't really think about my mom, or at least I don't make an effort to intentionally think about her. And I honestly think that that has to do with the fact that like you are like healing and you are in a good place in your grief, and that's okay. Like, yeah, if there's like a sunset, I'm like, oh, hey mom. But I mean, sometimes it's just like, I feel like there were days, it's almost like talking to your mom every day. I look back on it and I'm like, did I actually talk to my mom every day? I'm like, probably not. There were probably some days where I was just like, hey, love you. Hey, night. I love you, like that sort of thing. So there were honestly probably days where me and my mom didn't talk, just because that's life. So that's the way that I have to picture it in my head.
Yeah. Like even now, like that's so true. Because like, say they were alive now, are we, like you say, are we going to be thinking about them or talking to them every single day? Like probably not. Like life happens, and it, like I'll try and speak to my dad on the phone like every couple of days. But sometimes a week will go by and dad will be like, oh, like just checking in. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. Like I was meaning to ring you on Wednesday and then life happened. And I haven't even thought about in those days in between, like, oh, I really should call my dad. It's not until he reaches out and I think, oh yeah, I did say that. Sorry. So it's just the reality of it. But I think their absence makes certain feelings feel bad.
Yeah. And that's why we feel bad. That's why we feel guilty about it, because they're not here. And it's, but like, this sounds bad, but I don't feel guilty about not talking to my dad for a week because my dad's still here. Yeah. And if my dad wasn't here and I didn't consciously think about him, I would be like, okay, what? And then it's just I feel like you feel really bad whenever you have like a bad day or a hard day, or like shit hits the fan and you're like, oh God, like I haven't thought about my mom in like X amount of days. And I'm just like, okay, this is really awkward. What now?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you say, it's when like normal everyday stuff will happen that's maybe like a bad day. but then somehow, I don't know if you're the same, but I'll be having a bad day just in general, and mum could be alive and she could be dead, but this day is going to happen. And then at the end of it, you think, yeah, but if mum was here, it would have been so much different. It would have been so much better. And I could have called her and I could have spoke to her about it, but I can't and she's not here. And it just, makes the day feel worse. And it's just stupid because it's just a normal bad day.
Yeah, it is. I'm curious, do you feel guiltier, I guess, not thinking about your mom when you're having a good day or when you're having a bad day?
That's a good question.
For me, it's a bad day, but...
Yeah, because I feel like, if I'm having a bad time or something's upset me, I think just kind of instinctively, you feel like, that's not a word, Laura. You feel to go to your mum. Like, that's just like a thing that you would naturally think. So maybe if I'm having a bad day and I don't think about her, that would be very unusual and I'd feel guilty. But to be fair, if I have a bad day, I think about her. So I've never really thought about it. But that's proper thrown me, that question, because I never even really thought about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, you were right. Instinctively, like, when you have a bad day, you want your mom, obviously. So that's when I feel really guilty about, like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm just now thinking about her because I'm struggling. But like, and maybe it's just me being the kind of person that I am. I mean, when I have a good day, like, I want to tell my mom, but I was never the kind of person that, like, when I had a good day, she was never the first person that I told. Like, if something can happen, like, I have other people in my life that I would tell them to. I would tell my brother, or I would tell, like, my best friend, or that sort of thing. And that's still true to this day. But I think that's why the guilt hits me so hard, is because there is nobody that can make any bad day better other than your mom. But there are people who can make a good day better that aren't your mom.
100%. Do you know what? That's so good to hear, because I've never thought about it that way, but it's so true. So true.
Well, good. So how did you, like, obviously, your therapy helped you with your guilt, but now in, like, your day-to-day life, like, what helps you if you have one of those days where you're just really feeling guilty? Like, how do you cope with that?
I have a really good group of, like, people around me. I've moved again. I've actually moved 9 times. I calculated the other day, 9 times since my mum passed away. So
holy cow!
A lot of times. So I now live in another town, which is about 2 hours away from home. It's a long story, but when I was traveling, I met a girl who's now my best friend, and she lives here. And when I was visiting her and stuff and just hanging out, one of her childhood friends is now my boyfriend, and my whole life is just kind of like morphed around this area now. What was the question again?
Oh yeah, sorry. How do you cope with, like, when you have those moments for feeling guilty?
I was like, got so off track then. So I've now built, like, a life for me in a whole new place with amazing people. And it's actually very few people in my little network that were there at the time mum passed away. So a lot of the people I know now never actually met my mum, never knew my mum. Which is bizarre, but they're an amazing group of people. So whenever I'm feeling guilty and it's kind of taken a toll, I'm always surrounded by love, and that really, really helps. I'd say probably the main thing is my dad. The relationship I have with him was always good. I've always been daddy's little girl. So we've always been quite close, whereas now I can just speak to him like a best friend. I can call him up and be like, hey dad, feeling pretty shit, this is how I feel. And he's very good at, like, seeing it from, like, all sides, or sharing his perspective, or kind of sharing different ideas, not necessarily telling me how to feel or saying how I'm feeling is wrong, but almost just bringing, like, another light to how I'm feeling. And because of him being my dad, when he says certain things, I know him and my mum weren't together whilst I was growing up, but they were together a long time before I was born. They were like childhood sweethearts and kind of grew up together and stuff. So I feel like he knows my mum. So when he tells me things and he was like, you know what, mum would think or mum would say, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do you know what, Dad, you're right. Like, you're so right. So yeah, I'd just say the people around me have definitely helped, aside from like the counselling and kind of focusing head on the problems. I think just constantly having like soundboards around me when I need to vent or when I need to kind of just voice things, it's really, really helped.
Oh yeah, having a support system is crazy. It's funny
number one
that, like you mentioned, that like these people, you know, they didn't know you when your mom passed. And I look back on my life and I'm like, wow, this is sad. I'm literally friends with one person that I was friends with before my mom passed, other than like my mom's best friend's daughter, because we have to like each other. But like my actual like friends, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But it's nice to have like those people. And then people who really just, I mean, I've found it, not saying that, you know, one group of people have been more helpful than the other, but it's really, really comforting to know that there are people who have stuck with you like through this entire process. And then there are also people who, you know, you met after this loss happened who still love you for you despite this loss. Because I notice a lot in my life, especially when it comes to dudes, they're like, oh my God, your mom died. Like, I'm scared shitless. And I'm like, you're a dick. Like, go away. But yeah, when you find that, you're like, oh, my life is like so good.
Definitely. And I think it's not even, because I would say like my boyfriend, he doesn't necessarily know what to say to me when I'm having a really bad like grieving day. He doesn't know what to say. But I think the fact that he knows maybe not to necessarily say anything, like there are no words, so he doesn't try to kind of sugarcoat it or anything like that. He knows that I just need my space. I just need a little bit of a cuddle and a kiss on my head. Like, that's all I need. And that's good enough. Like, you don't need people to kind of fill that hole or fill that silence. Like,
yeah,
you don't need that. They need to know. Yeah.
And it's important to tell people what you need. I know sometimes you don't know what you need, but once you know, it's like, okay, I need X, Y, and Z from you. Like, it's not hard. Like, if you have to put my mom's anniversary in your phone, if you have to put Mother's Day in your phone, if you have to put my mom's freaking birthday on your phone, then okay, so be it. I expect you to just send me a text message and be like, hey, I'm thinking about you today. That's it. Period. Like, it's not rocket science. People don't seem to get that, but whatever. That's a conversation for another day. But it's, and that's what means so much, is they literally know what you need and they do that without you having to consistently tell them. And that's when you know, you're like, oh my God, like this person is like a lucky charm. Like, and I don't know if that's just my mindset because of like the loss that, you know, you've been through, but do you agree with that? Or maybe I'm just crazy once again?
No, not at all. I agree. I totally agree. And I think when you have such a great loss at a young age, you just value people and you value small things 10 times more. Like, it's like saying, like, I wish that I could have gone on a walk with my mum when she wanted to. Now, like, if it's the smaller things, if my best friend wants to do something and I'm like, oh, really? I'll do it because she wants to do that. And in that moment, if that's what she wants to do, that's what we're going to do. So I feel like there's just a newfound like appreciation for like other people and their happiness and what's like fulfilling them, and then kind of in turn that then fulfills you.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I guess kind of like this is in my head now, switching gears. How, I guess, often would you say that like you you have those days, where your guilt is just like consuming you? I mean, I know it's hard to say, but I guess if you think about it, do you think those days are expected? Or
No.
Okay.
No, I think they come now, for me anyway, out of the blue. I have more good days than bad now, and I think that's just because of time.
Time definitely heals all.
It does. And like at the time when people say that to you, it's like, oh, piss off.
Pissed.
Like, yeah. But yeah, no, they come out completely out of the blue. I feel like I deal with like birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases, things like that, a lot better now. I kind of see them coming. I'm like, right, okay,
Yeah.
come in. I know how I'm going to feel, and I kind of prepare myself. I still feel that way, but it just doesn't come as a shock. But I think the guilt hits you harder when it is out of the blue, and it kind of just knocks you off your feet, and then all you can do really is like be consumed by it. But I'd say it's few and far between. Like the last few weeks for me, I've been like quite low and stuff, but for the first time, which has been really hard to deal with actually, for the first time, is that it's not actually grief related. So I don't have an answer to why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling right now, and I could somehow relate it back, but really I'm just like clutching at straws. Like that's not really why I'm feeling this way. I'm just feeling this way because I'm having a shit time.
Yeah, I mean that's just life, so don't beat yourself up with that one.
100%. Like that's what I mean. Like I've always kind of been like, yeah, well, I feel this way because mum died and then this happened and this happened and this happened. I've always had like justification for it. So it's been weird, but that's not really guilt. I wouldn't say it's guilt related right now.
It's funny that you mentioned that though, because you're definitely not the only one like who would justify your mom's death for acting a certain way. And there are mannerisms and like ways that we act that manifested from that loss that, you know, that are never going to change. But like, I had a bad day because I had a bad day. I didn't have a bad day because my fucking mom died. Like I had a bad day and now that makes me miss my mom more. But it's like I feel like for most people, their grief is worse when you've had a long day or stressful or whatever. But just like grief being unpredictable, who the heck is going to predict they're going to have a bad day? I mean, it's the whole sort of thing. So it's funny that you mentioned that. Oh my God. Now that you were saying like, oh, it used to piss me off when people would say, oh, like time heals all. And oh my God, you were so right. But yeah. And I think it's because the way some people mean it, they might have meant it
empty
and not as a very positive like connotation. And I'm like, okay, like time heals all, but we can say that because like you and I have experienced that firsthand. They're just saying that
proof.
Exactly. I'm like, I feel like you're just saying that shit out of spite. That's why it pisses me off.
Yeah.
But like for people who actually mean well, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's also too, like for some people, it can be time, meaning 20 years. For other people, it can be time, meaning like 5 years. And I think that's why people get so frustrated if it's been years and years after their loss and they're not like better. And people say that, then they're like, oh, like, I don't believe you because it's been like 10 years. And I'm like, but that's this really terrible. I mean, the world has a terrible perspective of time. Honestly.
100%. But I also, maybe an unpopular opinion, and please tell me if you disagree, but I also think there comes a time where not grief becomes a choice. That's the complete wrong words. But you get to a point where you have all of the knowledge that you need. You understand your grief to a higher extent. So now you have all your tools. It's kind of up to you now. Like you can either sit and feel sorry for yourself for the rest of your life, or you can kind of accept that it's happened. Not the whole shit happens like I was when I was 17, but like just accept that like these things do happen. It's not going to change. It's going to always be this way. And you can just kind of flip it and try and make it not a positive thing, but like you can try and carry on with your life. Like you do have that choice. Like I said, unpopular opinion. Some people think, no, it happened and I'm going to feel shit for the rest of my life. Okay, that's fine. But I do think, once you've spent time, what's the word? Like spent time like looking into your grief and kind of dealing with different things, you build up enough resources to kind of make a informed choice, I guess.
No, I 100% agree. And that's what I tell all these people. I'm like, everything in life is a choice. Like you, at the end of the day, you can choose to be happy and you can choose to wallow in your grief and let it affect you for the rest of your life. Yes, for a certain amount of time, it's completely, I hate the word normal, but it's completely expected for you to not want, for you to make the choice to not heal. But eventually you need to do it for yourself, and you need to do it for your mom and the people that you've lost. It's like they are happy, and like, hell, do it for yourself. You fucking deserve to be happy. Like, you went through hell and high water.
Yeah.
And it's just like people have that terrible perspective. But if I could literally be anything in anybody's head, it is that.
Yeah.
It is a choice. And like you healing is 100% a choice. You have to make a choice. Either I need to make the choice to get help because I can't do this on my own, or I can do this on my own, or I think I can, and I can try. And then that's honestly like what made me heal so much through my grief is like one day I had an epiphany and I was like, okay, like there's this one quote that really helped me. It's like, every day might not be good, but there's something good in every day. And I know it sounds cliche, but like if you really try to find the good in every day, you realize that like grief is a journey and the outcome is so much better. Like it's worth any type of like pain. I mean, that's just my view. And then eventually the more you keep choosing to be happy, it becomes less of a choice and you just are. Can you attest to that? Because people are like, how are you like in a good place? And I'm like, oh, I just tried and now I just am. Like it's just a way of life.
Yeah, I always say this actually when people ask me similar questions. I'm like, well, you kind of like fake it until you make it. Like you kind of just keep like thinking, right, no, it's gonna be fine, and then one day you wake up and it is fine, and you think, like you kind of positive mental attitude, you get yourself in that zone where you just get to a point, like you say, where it's good, and you don't even need to try to make it good or consciously make it good. It's fine. But I think I went through a stage actually last year, maybe the year before, no, last year. I got so obsessed, like literally obsessed with being positive, being happy, being this joyous person. Like I was so obsessed with it. Not in like a fake way. Like I just genuinely was really, everything I did, it had to be with like passion and purpose and constantly like so much energy. And if I ever had like a bad day, I'd force myself through it. And as good as that was and is, you also do have to allow yourself to have a day where you're just like, you know what? I feel a bit shit today, and that's okay. And I'm going to lay in bed all day because that's what I want to do. But tomorrow is a new day and I'm going to smash it tomorrow. So it's like finding that balance between not constantly like brainwashing yourself into being or feeling a way that you don't, and allowing yourself the space if you do need to have a bit of a cry or a bad day, because you just exhaust yourself otherwise.
Oh my God, that's so funny. You hit the nail on the head. I literally I have nothing else to say. Oh, on a random side note, how did you get into blogging?
I've always written, like even before mum died, before mum was ill, I just always kind of wrote, had a diary. And then before, I think it must have been before, I just used to write about probably like boys and stuff like that.
Typical stuff, right?
Yeah, typical girly stuff. And then after mum died, I started writing anonymous on what is it? It's not. Oh, it's a really old like social media platform, like MySpace. I think it was MySpace.
Oh God, holy cow!
Yeah, like anonymously just writing these different like entries, and I just was obsessed with also doing like the different like decoding and like making my page look all different. And then I went on to just like other kind of writing platforms, like WordPress and things, just as an outlet. And I enjoy writing anyway. Like I enjoy, I've always been quite good with words, I guess. Not so much speaking, but writing. When I've got time to put it down on paper, it's much better, I promise. But yeah, so I just started writing, and then I found that the expectation of, say, weekly entries, or like putting my URL out there or something, it meant that what I was writing was really forced. And I didn't feel like, if a week went by and I didn't feel to write, I felt like I wasn't doing what I said to the world I was going to do, if that makes sense in a way.
No, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then I started my Instagram page, because it's just like little snippets, little captions, like you can write more or less, or the picture can tell it all. And again, that was anonymous. I didn't have any of my friends and family on that page, only until recently, because I felt that way I could be a lot more honest with what I was saying. Because I know when I used to write like Facebook statuses, for example, and I've got like my uncle and my auntie and my dad and my granddad or whatever seeing what I'm saying, a lot of the time my words typed out are a lot more honest than my words out loud. So my words typed out would sound really dark. And then they'd call me and be like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Are you all right? You having a good day?" And they're like, "What? Like, that doesn't add up. Like, you're literally pouring your heart out typing, but with your words you're okay." So it kind of hurt them a little bit to see the truer side of me, I guess. But yeah, so it's just an outlet, and Instagram allows you to kind of do it in different ways, and as and when, there's no kind of expectations, and it's just kind of there for people to relate to too. So yeah.
Oh my God, it's so funny that you say that. It's very, very important to find your outlet. And I feel like finding your outlet is almost an accident, because you know what you like in life, and then you like randomly write one day or talk one day about your grief, and you're like, holy hell, this is like super comforting. And then you just make it a thing, and then boom, there you go, you have a blog.
It's funny though, because I'm just thinking now as you were speaking, like, it's almost just with the times, because if I was me 20 years ago, how would I, or it maybe longer ago, how would I have chosen to express how I was feeling? Because it wouldn't be through social media, because that wasn't a thing. So yeah,
that's very true. I mean, you probably could have written, but you might not have been able to write online.
This is it. And like, there is some sort of what is the word? Like, not satisfaction, sounds really wrong, but in terms of like putting my words out there and then someone else being like, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that. That's 100% like, I get you," or "I'm so glad you said that. It's made me feel so much better." There's some sort of, I say satisfaction, I know it doesn't sound right. It's the wrong word. I can't think of the right word, but there's something in that kind of makes it more purposeful, makes it more worth it, I guess.
Exactly. It's like I'm doing something right in the world.
Yeah, 100%. Whereas like when you write on paper and no one else reads it, it's almost like it's there and that's all it is. It doesn't serve it.
Yeah. I mean, it serves you, but when you can serve yourself and other people, then why not?
100%. Yeah, no, that's so true.
So where can people find your blog? I know you said you had an Instagram.
Yeah, so that's mainly where it all is now. So my Instagram is just my full name, which is Laura Elizabeth Duck, which is like
such a cool name.
I know. So yeah, and it's just like, it started off as like more of, like I said, like when I was obsessed with positivity. So if you go right down to the bottom, it's all very much like, yeah, life's great, everything's fine. But I'd say in like the last 6 months, maybe a little bit before Christmas, and maybe last like 8 months, it's become a lot more of like an honest outlet. I say when I'm having a bad day. I say when I'm having a good day. I say when I'm having a day that has nothing to do with my mum. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be grief related, which I've learned. And yeah, it's it
incredible. All will be grief related, even if you don't mean for it to be, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, and people read it differently. And I've met like the people that I have like in my DMs, like just messaging me. I had one girl message me the other day, and she was so sweet. She's literally just like, thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your sharing, like, please never stop. And I just thought, for me, I'm just posting a picture and throwing a few words underneath it. It really like helps people, and like they're so encouraging, and yeah, it's so nice.
It's just like, okay, I feel so much better now. Thank you. I'm really glad I can help people. Is there anything else that you want to leave with the listeners?
I guess it depending on, I'd say, like we're saying with time, like how long it's been, I feel, and I want anyone who is like 2 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, like I want everybody to feel that their feelings are valid. And even if, like, for example, me being 8 years on, I sometimes feel like what I'm feeling, I shouldn't be feeling this way anymore, like I should be over it, but that's not right. And I just, no matter how long it's been, grief is continuous. It's always going to be there, whether you feel positively or negatively towards it. It's always going to be there. And it's just a case of kind of like learning to live with it, learning about yourself, like self-awareness and your traits and like everything like that. But yeah, just, I want everybody who's listening to this to feel valid in what they're feeling, no matter what that is.
Wow. Well, thank you. Okay. I'm just going to let that resonate and everybody can think on it and pretty much go from there. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a blast. And I love learning about your story.
Yeah. No, I feel like I've kind of forgotten that we're being recorded. Like I feel like I'm just chatting to you, and it's been great.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Hey, friend. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Before you go, I have 3 favors to ask you. First, I wanted to let you know that I host a group for women where we share our day-to-day stories, challenges, and victories. If you want to come along for the ride, head to Facebook and search for Life After Losing Mom Community. Second, if you don't mind leaving me a review and telling me how I've helped you in your grief journey, I would greatly appreciate it. Finally, head to katbonner.com/podcast to access previous episodes and subscribe for episodes in the future.
This has been an OutsourceYourPodcast.com production.